Welcome back to Titan Review. Coming off a long week of a difficult conversation with Chris Colin, the head coach at University of Detroit Mercy. We've tough game against yesterday, battling against Air Force, and then obviously Jacksonville University. It's a bit of a tough week after two wins. So you're a bit of a streak again, Chris. So you got Bellarmine coming up on Saturday. So maybe sum up the week.
Yeah, it's a lot of yin and yang. It's, you're playing, you got Jacksonville and you have Air Force, two of the best teams in our conference. And to kind of see them back to back is a real difficult thing for a young team. And I thought we tried pretty hard and had maybe a quarter and a half of pretty good play against Jacksonville. Jacksonville really penalized us on our penalties, or not on penalties, but just penalized us on every mistake we made. Just played very fast and very athletic. And then you play them Wednesday, and you get a Thursday, Friday practice, and we've got a lot of kids that they're kind of in that first time they've ever gone through a Wednesday, Saturday run like that at home, and against two that I think Air Force is 5-0 in our conference on Saturday, and we just didn't know how to expect it, and didn't know how to prepare for it. I didn't think we had the best week of practice leading up to it. We tried to, rest, but plan, and these weeks are how you learn how to play in the tournament, right? Because the tournament's on such quick turnaround, and that's why the league does it. But we had Jacksonville that had a Queens game before us, and then Air Force has a full week of prep behind them while we're playing a game on Wednesday. And we just I don't think physically, mentally, and emotionally recovered from Jacksonville to get ready for Air Force. And we had that last year on the road, and it's much worse. So I guess we improved a little bit from year to year, but it was still a pretty hard loss and a lesson. And I think the takeaway on it is just how we prep and how we recover and how we get ready for the next game. A lot of guys, I think, are reflecting today, and that was really the message after the game, is how to reflect and move forward and be better ready for those situations, because we're going to be in those situations again.
Talking to John Galloway after the game on Wednesdays, that may be the best quarter or two quarters put together, the second and the third, that he'd seen his team play in a while, and he didn't specify. I saw passes being made inside that, as you pointed out, as we talked before, some of the pros, you wouldn't make some of those passes, but you were in that game, and then we come to Air Force, who's a bigger physical, a larger and much more physical team than I think Jacksonville is. At least it looks that way.
Yeah, probably front to back, but I think in the middle of the field, Jacksonville is probably just as fast and as big as them. Jacksonville, to your point, they made some offensive plays, and I talked to John after the game too. He said, there are some, we're pretty good at blind doubling, and they made some goals on 3 or 4 passes that I don't think a PLL team would catch up to, or I haven't seen a big, we've played some pretty good opponents, and maybe Notre Dame could cover that defensively, what they were doing, but I haven't seen another offense play like that. And, hopefully, for them, they're hitting their stride at the right time, but there were some offensive plays that, that was, ACC level. So, he has a lot to be happy about for that. And our guys, we're almost there on a lot of them, but it's a great film. And as we have a little bit more time to look and review on that, we'll use that for learning moving forward.
You look competitive against Jacksonville. In fact, late in the second quarter, I think you got it down to 9-6.
Yep.
And it was very much of a game of runs. But from the get-go against Air Force, it just looked like, it was just you were half a step slow.
Yep. And I think that goes with them having a full week of prep, and we having a game on Wednesday. And I don't think it's an excuse. And we have to learn how to do that, because that's part of lacrosse. But we really just, we were just at a high level and at the top of our conference, when you make a mistake, they will penalize. And I think that's one of the biggest learning curve things that, folks that are in Michigan, Michigan in the Midwest, that some of our Midwest kids learn on the fly here at U of D, is that, you get away with some mistakes in high school that you don't get away with in college. And we'll just keep teaching and keep learning and keep moving forward with it. And that if I'm disappointed in anything in Air Force, is just we seem to give them a lot of opportunities that boy did they take advantage of, right? So those are things that we have to play a cleaner game and get better about moving forward to next week, because God knows Bellarmine's a really good team too that does the same thing and plays a lot like Jacksonville and Air Force, and will penalize you if you make a mistake. So um, hopefully we can learn from our past mistake in the last week.
If you watched both the broadcasts, we realized, we all realized, but face-offs are everything. And you watch, Billy Hart facing off against bigger, stronger guys, and it's no lack of heart, but sometimes it comes down to skill and size, and part of that becomes you got to find somebody who will compete at that level. It's tough. You tried a number of things, including long poles, just to control the face-off, but is that something that you just sort of, you mentioned last week that you've been taking, a lot of time as a head coach to work with face-offs, but if you don't have a horse, can you really, is there much you can do with it?
Well, the units, I mean, for effort, we've got a really good group and that really cares about each other. And moving forward for next year, we've got some real technicians coming in that are real face-off technicians. But if you look kind of where our face-offs were at the beginning of the season to where they are now, we've had a pretty big improvement. We need to continue that in the last 2 weeks. But yeah, we've gone to we've kind of have where I think a lot of face-off units have one guy with multiple tricks. We have kind of right now a bunch of guys with one trick, and we kind of go back and forth. But Billy tries so hard, and Joey and Logan Flaherty was hurt kind of earlier in the year, and it kind of lingered, and he's been healthier and getting better and better, and he's been pushing the unit. So he has some ability to take some reps too moving forward as he's kind of worked himself back in, and Mikey came in and did a couple for a spark too. So it's kind of a committee thing, and we're going to continue to get better at it, and they're that group out of any group really has a growth mindset, and they really help each other a lot. So it's yeah, we're spending a lot of time with it. We've improved, and it's funny, while we were playing such a clean, because you go back to some of our earlier games where we were like at, I think 20% face-offs or less, right? Like we were playing such clean offense and defense because we had to. Our face-offs are going up to 45 and almost 50%, and we're not as clean in that. So that's if it's not one thing, it's another. So we're trying to figure that out.
All right, well, you get Bellarmine coming up. You got a week to get ready for them, and then obviously you finish off the season with Senior Day against Cleveland State. I think a little bit later than that, the 27th of April, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So my question to you is, we got the best luck. Are you mathematically out of the tournament now at this point?
No, that's funny. If we win our last two, we can back our way in, and that's we've had a lot of Detroit teams that have done that in the MAC. So if we win our last two games, we actually, because some of the ways it's panned out, we could back our way in. So you got to just win two. So if we can get we always thought with this team, and it's been the message throughout the year, let's just get the 4 and let the chips fall where they may. So, yeah, we got a lot to play for. When we go down to Bellarmine, it's their Senior Day, so we'd like to spoil that and do the best we can down there. And then it's our Senior Day up against Cleveland State, which is kind of our regional rival. So a lot to play for no matter what in terms of pride. So,
all right. Well, we wish you the best of luck certainly this coming Saturday, and if you're successful there, it's going to be certainly an interesting game and an exciting game coming up against Cleveland State at home to finish up the season. And we wish you the best of luck, and thanks for your time.
Thanks so much, Greg.
Welcome back to Titan Preview. We're getting a chance to talk to Andrew Whitley, the great coach at Bellarmine. University of Detroit Mercy will head Saturday to Kentucky to play another ASUN game. A bit of a tough weekend. You guys had a great win over Robert Morris, 14-9. Great season. And Andrew, you're going to entertain University of Detroit. Where do you talk a little bit about the game, but also talk about the league? Because right now you're at, I think, 5-2 in the league overall, if I'm not mistaken.
We are. I think we still have a little bit of a miracle has to happen. We could still get the 2 seed, but I think we're probably settling into kind of the 3-4 spot, depending on kind of the outcome the last couple weeks. We've had a couple of pretty good, we're a couple of plays away, I think, from potentially being in one of the driver's seat for one of those top two seeds. But I'm pretty happy with the progression this week. We won a couple of big ones against Robert Morris and Cleveland State this week. So I was just pretty happy with, be able to get two teams that we've, are kind of big rivals in the Rust Belt, and Robert Morris we hadn't beaten since 2016. And Cleveland State was just a good one to get. It was kind of an emotional Saturday. One of our captains, Denton McDonald, had his mom pass from a long-term battle with cancer on Friday. So it was a pretty emotional Saturday for the guys and for our locker room. And we were able to, Cleveland State came out playing great, and we were able to kind of weather the storm and ultimately come back and get one on Saturday, and kind of head into Detroit here in a pretty good spot, having also qualified, kind of knowing we're going to be in the conference tournament.
You took over during the pandemic year, and a lot of the kids you have in the roster now were freshmen then, they're seniors now. You could put up 11 last year. Certainly nobody's looking over their shoulder when they're playing you. And that takes a different premise. I would think that sort of, as you pointed out in the pre-interview, managing success has been a part of that process for you as a coaching staff. What are the kind of things you talked about with your players when you know that you've had that success last year, and obviously you're continuing into 2024?
Well, we have a mental performance woman who works in our department, and we've just kind of attacked it head on. Success begets pressure, and so we really kind of tried to embrace that pressure. One of the things I tell the kids all the time is pressure is a privilege. Most people spend their life in the audience. You guys get to be on stage for a little while. Enjoy that and appreciate it and embrace it. But it does come with pressure, and we kind of addressed that at the beginning of the fall. And it's been something we've talked about regularly. Just expectations, whether they're internal within the kids themselves, or whether they're external, because there's some media coverage, there's some expectations from outside influences. We've just talked about it very openly. We've also started to realize we're not getting anybody's C+ effort anymore. We're looking back, teams look at a team that won 11 games last year. I don't really care that historically we haven't had that previously, but we won 11 games last year, so people got us circled on their calendar. And we've gotten a lot of A and B effort out of people, including some of the high major teams we've played. So we've handled that pretty well, I think, this year. There's been a couple of bumps along the way, but I think it's something that we're going to have to get used to if this continues to progress the way we hope it does.
As a goaltender, do you think you understand pressure better than maybe offensive or defensive players? I say that as being a former goaltender in college.
I like to think so, but at the end of the day, I think it actually is just I look at the game a little bit from a different perspective. Guys that are played in the field, talk a lot about, X's and O's and strategy. And I ultimately look at goaltending as an individual position in a team sport. And in lacrosse, we even put a circle around it. So you kind of live in a little bit of a bubble at times. But one of the things I talk with our goalies about is once the ball's in the air, whether a guy's at 18 yards or at 18 inches, there's only one guy on the field that can do something about it. And so there's a little bit of, you get too much blame when it goes poorly and get too much credit when it goes well. And so we talk about that. And a lot of what our defensive scheme is about is we're not going to play shotless defense. That is unrealistic in college lacrosse. And you have to be able to ultimately give up shots that your goalies are comfortable saving, and then they've got to save it. And so a lot of what we do schematically is built around that. I give my associate head coach, Nick Marks, a ton of credit. He's done a really good job turning us from a very average defensive team when I arrived to ultimately helping recruit those guys and turning us into what I think is a quite good defensive unit right now. And we currently rank in the top 3 in clearing percentage, which I think is part of that. That's kind of good stick handlers, guys who are comfortable in space, guys who play very well in a scheme. And that's been a staple. When I took the job, for us to be able to win games, we had to be in them. So I kind of started defensively and worked up, and it's just allowed us to be in games the first couple of years. And then, year 3 and 4, we started to win a couple of them. And that's just been part of the evolution. When I took the job 5 years ago, I ultimately was thinking about building things that were sustainable. I didn't want to take a lot of shortcuts. I'd rather take 25 steps that I knew we could repeat than take 5 that might give us a flashpoint, but we might not be able to do again.
The Titans head to Kentucky coming up this coming Saturday, playing what is one of the better teams in the country right now. We wish you the best of luck, and Andrew, I appreciate you taking some time to talk to us.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks, Greg.